Hello and welcome to this month's longevity review walkthrough. The month we're talking about is May 2022, so I'm a little bit behind schedule, but they had a busy month and finally getting around to doing it now, but I guess better late than never. So just briefly introduce myself. My name is Chris Linnell. I founded the Canadian Longevity Association, and I've been writing a longevity newsletter for the past 4 years, and this is the latest installment of that newsletter. So I'll just take you through the highlights, the most interesting studies which came out in the month of May regarding longevity. So as you can see, here's my newsletter in front of you, and I will go through that. And anyway, so newsletter starts off with just some news about the CLA. So we're sort of in the process of sort of a one step back, two steps forward time frame. We're putting in the infrastructure for the organization and having to do various things. So in the process of getting a new website, which we've gotten a WordPress web host, and hopefully in the next few weeks, we'll actually be able to transition over to it. Just a brief shout out if you'd in any way, shape, or form like to help us. At the Canadian Longevity Association, there is a volunteer registration form you can fill out, which I shall even try out, see if it works. It does indeed. So we've got a form here for you to fill out if you would like to help us in any which way or form. Yeah, these videos will be posted to our new YouTube channel. The quality of these videos will improve as time goes on once I get set up in my new place, which I'll be moving into in the next month or two. But in the meantime, yes, it's perhaps a bit amateurish, but hopefully you can put up with it. Anyway, moving forward, I always have every month I have a Canadian Longevity Spotlight focusing on an organization or even individual or researcher in Canada working on longevity, and this time taking the spotlight shines on the Lifespan Society, which used to be known as the BC Lifespan Society. They are based in British Columbia, and their initial focus was mainly on cryogenics, though they have branched out into more general longevity related. Just take a look at their site. Please do check them out, especially if you are based in British Columbia. I believe they do have regular meetups in the Vancouver. You can see obviously a photo of a walk around Stanley Park, it looks like. And also be well if you live in the area to become an actual paid member. I think for $5 a month or $60 a year. You receive various benefits, including I think you get a free DEXA scan or something, which is actually worth more than the cost of membership. So certainly do check them out and give them some love and support as well. Anyway, moving on to looking at the actual interesting papers which have come out. So in my roundup section, where I highlight perhaps the 5 most interesting papers, so we're gonna take a look at all of these. So the first one was an inhuman study on a fairly new supplement called urolithin A. Now, urolithin A is a metabolite which is actually produced in our guts by our microbiome if we eat pomegranates or walnuts, and if you have the right bacteria. Unfortunately, most of us do not actually have the right bacteria to produce urolithin A, so the supplement sort of in to fill that void. Now, in this particular urolithin A improved exercise performance and muscle strength, and biomarkers related to what's called mitochondrial function. So I think it uses mitophagy or matophagy, which is like the mitochondria. So if you remember, the mitochondria are the energy sources in each of our cells. And yeah, after 4 months, muscle strength, you can see, increased by 12%, and there was also improvements in aerobic endurance in terms of peak oxygen consumption and physical performance in the 6-minute walk test. So yeah, so this could be potentially useful for not only increasing muscle performance in healthy individuals, but also perhaps help mitigate against sarcopenia, which is the muscle wasting in old age. Yeah, one thing I should point out, that this supplement is actually very expensive at the moment. Maybe the price will come down, but it's certainly outside of my price range at the moment. But if you've got cash to spare, it could be worth checking out. And yeah, there's a link to the actual supplement here in case you're interested, if you're interested in that. But yes, anyway, please take a look at the newsletter for all these links. Next paper is not in humans but in mice, and this is actually one of my favorite kinds of papers because it involves the combination of different supplements, in this case, or molecules or substances. The three, and even more interesting enough, it's not just a combination of two, it's a combination of three. In this case, it's acarbose, phenylbutyrate, and rapamycin, my favorite anti-aging, my favorite current anti-aging intervention. And this paper shows that short-term treatment, I think it's 3 months, improved various aspects of aging. So the severity of age-related lesions in heart, lungs, liver, and kidneys were consistently decreased. What else? Hold on here. The mice treated with the cocktail showed a sex and strain-dependent phenotype consistent with healthy aging, including decreased body fat, improved cognition, increased strength and endurance, and decreased age-related pathology, compared to the mice treated with control, i.e., no drugs, or each individual drug on its own. That's the important thing about this study, which is that as it says here, this study shows that a combination of 3 drugs, each previously shown to enhance lifespan and health span in mice, is able to delay aging phenotypes, basically delay aging in middle-aged mice more effectively than any individual drug in the cocktail over a 3-month period. So, yet again, aging is a multifaceted condition or disease, some people like to call it, and one single drug is not going to make a huge amount of difference. Therefore, we need combinations to affect different pathways, and this is a good example of how a combination of drugs can sort of work synergistically together. Now, because it was only 3 months study, there's no lifespan results presented here. Hopefully the authors are currently conducting a lifespan study to see if again they are their lifespan increase further than the individual drugs. I should mention that it hasn't been published yet, but the interventions testing program tested a combination of both rapamycin and acarbose, which both worked individually in the interventions testing program, and supposedly the combination and acarbose increased the maximum lifespan of mice by the greatest extent that the interventions testing program has seen up to this moment. So yeah, maybe adding butyrate will increase the lifespan even further. Time will tell on that. Going on to the next study here, young cerebrospinal fluid improves memory in mice. Now, it has been shown that when various different components of a young animal are given to an older animal, it can quite often prove to be beneficial for that older animal. And when I talk about substances, talking about blood blood and plasma from a younger animal, bone marrow and stem cells from a young animal. All of these can increase lifespan, but also improve the health of the recipient older animal. In this study, they found similar effects with the cerebrospinal fluid. So that's basically the fluid that sort of encases our brain and our spinal cord, bathes or I guess it bathes our neurons or whatever. And taking a look at the abstract. So yeah, it where is this? So we show that young cerebral spinal fluid boosts oligodendrocyte progenitor cell proliferation, which type of cells in our brain, and producing more of them is a good thing. What else? Yeah, basically, these findings demonstrate that the rejuvenating powers of young cerebral spinal fluid and they identify FGF17 as a key target to restore the oligodendrocyte function in the aging brain. So, yes, just another mechanism, another demonstration of how there's the things in young animals which, when given to older animals, result in an improvement in their health. Of course, if we can fully figure out what those factors, those substances are, we can hopefully synthesize them and just give them as a form of drug or something like that. Actually, I'm going to just skip over because skip over the one in the middle here because this last one about GDF11. GDF11 is a growth differential factor 11, another sort of a molecule that is found in greater amounts in young animals or younger people than older animals or people, and it is found in the blood, and it is one of those factors which improves older animals when given them. So one of the factors in blood that was sort of discovered to be one of the main causes of that improvement. And the reason I highlighted this paper is that up until now, to get sort of GDF11 into the body, you needed to inject it. Whereas in this paper, they found a oral route of getting GDF11 into the body in mice in this case, which obviously is better than having to potentially take injections. Now, one reason I mention this is that there are people who are in fact biohacking and taking GDF11 themselves, and I actually know the guy who started this, who was the first person to inject it himself. It's a guy called Steve Perry, and he's got a website with it, which is worth checking out, actually. I met him at an aging conference a few years ago. Nice guy. And he believes very strongly in taking biomarkers and measuring what actually is happening. And he's got, I think, over 100 people now taking GDF11. Now, it's something that is a potentially dangerous molecule if taken in too high a dose, but it has shown quite strong potential rejuvenatory effects in humans, according to these biohackers. And he's got a lot of biomarkers on this website, which you can take a look, and he publishes a lot of stuff. So yeah, there's actual, well, I won't go through all this, but as you can find out how GDF11 actually potentially affects humans, and but again, these people are having to inject it themselves, I believe, on a daily basis. So if an oral route could be found, which this paper seems to suggest, that would make a lot a lot easier to take, and certainly could yeah, well, just make it take a lot easier to take, make more, have more people potentially use it. Going back to the study here in the middle, this was a very interesting paper because it involved gene therapy, again in mice, but actually used two different gene therapies in mice to substantially increase their lifespan. And one of the methods was to actually increase inserting the gene TRT, TERT or something like that. TERT, yes, telomerase reverse transcriptase, which increases or lengthens the telomeres at the end of our chromosomes, and follows statin, which I believe helps muscle growth or something along those lines. And the big thing here is that increasing the expression of TERT in our cells improved the mouse lifespan by a whopping 41.4%. With Fiat FST, it was only a whopping 32.5%. Now, one thing to point out, I believe that the control mice maybe didn't, actually forget now, the control mice maybe didn't live as long as some control mice can, so and also it's a small sample size, but this is a very intriguing paper. And the important thing here also that they used normal mice before gene therapy, because quite often they can, especially when it comes to the elongation of telomeres, which have potentially been shown to be useful in the past. In the past, they used, especially genetically engineered mice, which, well, yeah, it's which is obviously not as applicable than just normal mice. So yeah, very interesting paper, especially because there's no, I mean, this obviously needs reconfirmed and all those things, because I've not seen a 41% increase in mice before. So if this can be confirmed, this is quite a big change, a big positive change, I should say. So yeah, so that's the top sort of 5 papers that from the month of May. Now into the supplemental section. I'm going to break things down into lots of many subsections. I'm only going to touch on a few things here, but so you sort of lifestyle, fasting, dietary restriction, diet, exercise. I mean, basically, healthy lifestyle is good for you. Try to, eat as varied a diet as possible with lots of veggies and fruit. Do as much exercise as you can, both resistance and aerobic, and if you can, also fasting or dietary restriction in many different ways are also very good for you. One potentially interesting study was also that, like about regarding caloric restriction, was that the feeding times. Here's the lifespan.io's analysis. The feeding times could be quite important. So I think mice basically had to, if they ate during their active phase, which for a mouse is in the night, or at the beginning of their active phase, there was a greater effect on their lifespan than if they were fed, during their inactive phase, during the daytime. So I think here I can see the outside graph compared to the pink here, basically. So here you can, well, here it breaks it down right here. So just calorific restriction without fasting result in a 10% increase in mouse lifespan. Calorific restriction and fasting, so that they give all the mice the difference between just calorific restriction and caloric restriction and fasting was that with the CR on its own, the food was sort of spread out over a period of time for the mice. If it was fasting as well, basically the food was given to the mice only one time. They ate it all quickly. So they ate their food all at once. Anyway, so just CR on its own resulted in a 10% increase in lifespan. CR and fasting, but at the wrong time of day, resulted in a 20% increase, whereas fasting, CR fasting, but at the right time, so again at the beginning of their active time period, resulted in a 35% increase. I mean, translated to humans, and who knows if this holds true, but there are some indications already that it does. If you do fasting, I mean, I personally practice, I fast for at least 12 hours every day. Try to, get your calories in earlier in the day rather than later for most beneficial effect. I must admit, this is an area I have issues with. It's easier for me to skip breakfast, but I'm trying to stop my eating. I'm trying to stop eating earlier in the day, though this is proving difficult and problematic because of just socializing and all that type of thing, which is also very important in life. After all, what's the point of living longer if you don't enjoy it? At least that's my opinion. Quality of life trumps all. Just moving on, obviously you can take a look at the other studies on your own. Moving on to the actual supplement section, I'll just briefly touch on a few sort of in-human studies. So astaxanthin, the pink, white salmon are pink, most powerful carotenoid for adults with metabolic or at risk of metabolic syndrome. This sort of systematic study, meta-study of 6 studies showed, marginal effects on reduction in total cholesterol and systolic blood pressure, and a significant low attenuating, so lowering effect on low density cholesterol, basically. So it looks like there's some marginal benefit for astaxanthin if you have or if you're at risk of metabolic syndrome. Similar with sort of curcumin. Looks like it's useful for rheumatic diseases. So here, once again, it's sort of I looked at 18 animal and human trials for this, and here curcumin was able to reduce the expression of pro-inflammatory cytokines, lower the level of C-reactive protein, and improve clinical parameters. Just a reminder. Curcumin is the main bioactive ingredient in turmeric, which is the yellow spice used in Indian cooking a lot, so in curries and stuff. So yeah, some indication that it has some positive effects. They're also for like post-exercise muscle. So like delayed onset muscle soreness. So when you've done exercise and the next day your muscles hurt, that's called DOMS. And curcumin supplementation improves some aspects of DOMS, including muscle damage, muscle soreness, inflammation, muscle strength, and joint flexibility. So I mean, I take it. I have a curcumin drink every day, actually twice a day, certainly before and after exercise. I don't know if it's making a difference, but it's something I do. And turmeric powder is very cheap, bought at the supermarket. What else do we have? What else do I want to show you? Okay, melatonin, another supplement which helps you get to sleep, and I've been taking it for a few years, mainly because of it's aiding in getting to sleep, but also has a lot of potential other benefits. And again, there's potential benefit for melatonin in osteoporosis here. One thing though, one sort of negative aspect of melatonin though, it could reduce your insulin sensitivity, especially if you eat late at night. Again, there's one other reason to try to reduce eating earlier in the evening, because yeah, melatonin can interfere with that. I've seen other studies about this, and however here the treatment dose 10 milligrams is kind of higher than most people would take. I take 5 milligrams. Um, whether that's impacting my insulin levels or not, I'm not actually sure. That's something to sort of be aware of at least. And yes, I will share bad news as well as good news. But if you eat earlier in the day, then melatonin shouldn't really impact your insulin sensitivity. One other supplement trial here to take a look at is one involving NMN, nicotinamide mononucleotide, an NAD plus precursor, all the rage at the moment, and some really good mouse data. But in the last few months, last year or so, finally some human trials have started coming out, primarily of sort of a safety nature. And here once again, well, not once again, but basically subjects were taking 300 milligrams a day, 66 subjects, and it was, cut a long story short, yes, it did boost NAD levels, and it appeared safe to take. I'm very much looking forward to further studies, taking a greater look, or longer term studies, because this was, how far long was this for? The 60 days, 2 months. So, yeah, I mean, very much like to see longer term studies and taking a look at actual, physical changes or physiological changes, hopefully showing a benefit. Fingers crossed. Otherwise, I don't want to be, pissing away. Although, unfortunately, the price of NMN has dramatically reduced. It's gone down by more than 50% in the last couple of years. So that is positive. It's getting cheaper despite everything else getting more expensive these days. What else? A couple sort of null results. So again, we'll show you things that aren't positive. So your effective resveratrol supplementation on hepatic steatosis and cardiovascular disease. Basically, it didn't show no result. Or is it? Finally, resveratrol supplementation had no effect on hepatic steatosis and cardiovascular indices, at least in this trial. 1,000 milligrams of resveratrol for 8 weeks. Unfortunate. Other trials however, seem to indicate a benefit of resveratrol in cardiovascular disease, but in this trial, at least, it didn't show that. Another one that really disappointed me, to be honest, was this trial on spermidine, which has shown benefits in other previous human trials. So I eat wheat germ every day because wheat germ has the highest concentration of spermidine amongst foods, and it's an autophagy inducer. And a couple other studies I've seen has improved cognition in older adults. This one didn't. But, and the authors talk about this at the end, they wonder whether or not they basically didn't improve the spermidine levels enough. I mean, spermidine is produced by our bodies as well anyway, but here they only increased the spermidine content by about 10%. which the authors theorized was simply just not enough to demonstrate any difference. Yeah, I'm still continuing to add wheat germ to my berry and nut yogurt breakfast, but yeah, hopefully other trials will prove better, show better results. But we shall see. But yeah, very disappointed by this one. Felt quite gutted, but you can't win them all. I should say this month, because I added a little extra section for urolithin A, remember from the roundup. Yeah, quite often studies are like buses; they all come at once. So yeah, there were a few more studies on urolithin A in mice and stuff, also showing various other benefits. So for auditory cells, so like hearing, neurovascular breakdown, and bone growth. You can take a look at those. Moving further on, what did I want to show you here? So just other available substances. Oh yeah, this is quite interesting. Seems to indicate that vitamin D supplementation can lower epigenetic age, but it should be noticed that it's more a case of people who had very low levels of vitamin D sort of naturally, who were supplemented back up to normal levels, improved their biological age in terms of pheno age, grim age, etc. Yeah, showing like 2.6 years lower or 1.3 years lower, depending on which test was used. However, there wasn't any difference between did not statistically differ between participants with successfully treated vitamin D deficiency and healthy control. So if your levels of vitamin D are good already, then you probably wouldn't see any additional benefit. I do take vitamin D, and it's 1,000 or sometimes 2,000 units, international units a day. 1,000 in the summer, 2,000 in the winter. And here's an interesting one, was just glucosamine sulfate, which people use for osteoarthritis of the knees. Shows that there was also benefit from to osteoarthritis of the hand. Yeah, so there's a significant difference found after 6 months in these, I don't know, methodologies to measure, I guess, osteoarthritis. And also there was a significant reduction in symptomatic drug consumption. So basically, people took less of their other drugs they were taking for osteoarthritis of the hands. That's obviously positive. Yeah, I take glucosamine sulfate as a long-term preventative, so I hopefully lowers my chances of getting problems with my joints going forward. Though I do take that in conjunction with chondroitin and MSM. It's a combo supplement. What else here? So you're in sort of prescription supplements. I just want to point out again an issue with metformin and exercise. So people who, older people who exercised and took metformin at the same time, so saw like a 50% reduction in their aerobic exercise capacity improvement, or the VO2 max. Like that's how much oxygen you can consume. So yeah, metformin use reduced VO2 max improvements by half. So there was still an improvement with exercise, but it wasn't as big as people who were not taking metformin. So that is something to take into consideration if you're using metformin for longevity, and also obviously exercising for longevity at the same time. Let's see, nice, and I'll skip over that. What else would I wanted to show you? Let's see. Looking at my notes here. It was an interesting paper here, sort of just about epigenetic programming and epigenetic, not epigenetic program, but epigenetic age, and the hallmarks of aging. So there are like 9 hallmarks, which together sort of are all the different forms of aging our body goes through. And this paper sort of took a look at how like the epigenetic aging clocks, what biological processes do they actually are they actually linked to? And here, if I can find it, yeah. So epigenetic age, I guess call it if you want, is associated with nutrient sensing, mitochondrial activity, and stem cell composition. However, it was different from, or distinct from, as they say here, from cellular senescence, telomere attrition, and genomic instability. So, yeah, sort of interesting how all these different things start fitting together, start making sense as scientists find out more. Anything here? I mean, again, I won't go into all of these. You can take your time reading through them. Just lifespan. So here, lifespan lengthening interventions. Just point out ones that are being done in mice, because a lot of these are, see here, if you see here, Caenorhabditis elegans, or C. elegans, little worm. So maybe not. Yeah, you can see there's little C. elegans worm. So it might not be entirely pertinent to humans. However, lifespan extending interventions in mice, there's a greater chance it actually has. It is pertinent to humans. And this month there were 3. Increasing the FOXO-M1 gene in 1. Interestingly enough, chloroquine. So, you know, if you remember, an anti-malarial drug that was also touted as a anti-COVID drug, you know, the beginning of the COVID period. Well, it turns out that it increases lifespan in male mice. And also orodonin, which, now I remember what orodonin is. Oh yes, it was a something from traditional Chinese medicine. And here, increase the lifespan of yeast by 48% and by mice by 21%, which is a fairly considerable improvement in mice again. So I'd like to see this repeated, and improve various other aspects of aging in mice. But again, especially when it's only one lab which does the lifespan study, it really does need to be replicated. I mean, this is why the interventions testing program by the National Institute of Aging in the US is considered the gold standard, because they test a large number of mice, so not just a small amount, large number of mice at 3 different centers. So, yeah, individual variability between the centers can sort of be ironed out, and you know, if it improves lifespan in all 3 places, then there's a good chance it actually works. But well, in mice at least. Moving forward, just going down. Let's see. yeah, just to go through to show you a couple more senolytic papers, just saying that again and again. Senolytics are the removal of senescent cells, which, if you remember, are sort of the cells which just in our bodies which refuse to die, become sort of these zombie cells, secreting all this inflammatory molecules and cause damage elsewhere in the body. And a couple of studies here showing that they also help against radiation damage in mice, and also for gingival and gingival fibroblast culture. So basically, gingival tissues is in your mouth, your gums, basically. So periodontitis, stuff like that. So yeah, senolytics. A couple more areas where senolytics could prove a benefit. What else? I'm coming to the end here. I just wanted to point out again. I'm not going through all of these. Find them out for yourselves. But yeah, I want to just point out I think it's a review article on an interesting therapy, which I still haven't fully gotten my head around, but it's hyperbaric oxygen therapy. So basically, you're put into a chamber which has greater air pressure, and you're having it says here, a technique through which 100% oxygen is provided at a pressure higher than one at absolute atmosphere or something like that. And in the last couple of years, a number of papers, I mean, it's something that initially I sort of dismissed as kind of quackery, but there have been a number of papers coming out about this, and yeah, there might actually be something in it, that something as simple as sitting in a pressurized chamber, breathing in oxygen for an hour or two every so often, potentially has quite big effects. Anyway, this review goes through actually I had the time to read it myself, but it looks interesting. If I had time, I would be reading it. So if you want to find out more about hyperbaric oxygen therapy, the mechanisms to therapeutics, you can check this paper out. Okay, I think that is the end. Through brief, I'm now started working on the June news. Hopefully, I won't do this talk through a month late. And thank you for watching and bearing with all the technical having doing this in the last couple of months. As I just mentioned again, in the future, the quality, the production quality, and the audio quality, all the qualities of this podcast. Podcast? Is it a podcast? Let's call it a podcast. Will improve in the future. Say once I move into a new place and I can set up an actual studio for this, it will, fingers crossed, improve. Anyway, once again, thank you for watching, and you can always feel free to contact me if you have any questions about anything longevity related. And yes, finally, if you're watching today, Happy Canada Day, everybody. Hope you are having an enjoyable day. Anyway, cheers and